Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Happy Boxing Day to everybody who's British or knows of Boxing Day, and happy whatever else to everybody else. So, I have been inspired by Dan Wooten to actually do my own awards, because he did on his show the other day, he did the Lady Colin Campbell Awards. And so he inspired me to do the Castle Goring Awards. So I am going to be doing the Castle Goring Awards today, and hopefully you will find them entertaining. They cover an awful lot of ground, some of which I have every hope will be of interest to you, and some of which will be entertaining, and hopefully one or two bits which will be profound. I don't know what's got into her, but if she wants to give me love, I'm not going to complain, as long as she doesn't muck up my choker. Aurora. So, okay, first award has to be for the naughtiest dog on earth, but the most loving dog, and that has to go to Aurora. So sorry, that's a joke award. And now we will plunge in with the real awards. There are 38 of them, so it's a lot of ground to cover. The first is, ladies before gentlemen, the Woman of the Year. Well, I hope nobody will argue with my choice, which is Gisele Pelicot, that very unfortunate French woman who for years was knocked out by her husband so that he and his sick associates could take advantage of her. She demonstrated really such dignity, courage, humanity. And I mean, I have to say, I thought she was wholly admirable. And I think, hopefully, you will agree. I think without a doubt, the award has to go to her. And also, by waiving anonymity, she ensured that nothing would be swept under the carpet. I thought, wonderful woman. Everybody should be as wonderful as she was, in my view. Well, Man of the Year has got to go to Donald Trump, because it's just amazing that, notwithstanding every attempt to bury him, he has, like a phoenix, emerged victorious. And hopefully, fingers crossed, he will live up to the promise that he represents to so many people. And I have found it very interesting to discover that a lot of people who deplored him have more or less crossed the aisle. And it will be interesting to see if he gets the support that all sitting presidents should get, or if there will be attempts made to undermine his objectives, which, according to him, are harmony, peace, and prosperity. Foremost above all else. Those are the objectives. So I think, if only because he has risen phoenix-like from the ashes, I think he has to be the Man of the Year. Monster of the Year is Dominique Pelicot, who is the husband of Gisele Pelicots, who for years knocked her out and took such advantage of her. And on the few occasions that she had any clue as to what was, well, the irregularity of the situation, he sweet-talked her out of it. So, I mean, he gaslighted her aside from anything else. The betrayal of trust is truly extraordinary. And I think he has to be Monster of the Year. Head of State of the Year, sorry, it's going to be the King Charles. I thought that he behaved impeccably. He, notwithstanding the fact that he was ill, he rallied to the cause to the extent that he could. He had some very unfortunate and delicate matters to deal with politically, and he has straddled the divide in such a way that he has remained true to our Constitution. So I would have to say Head of State of the Year has to go to King Charles, because not only has he shown what true commitment is to your role, because, I mean, he's been very ill, but he has also shown what embracing your role and living it out, even when you're ill, is all about. I really think all countries should have a constitutional monarch. It would, especially the French, they need a constitutional monarch right now. The most statesmanlike younger royal has got to go to William. William has, in the last year, not only shown grace under pressure, and he has handled tremendous personal grief and strain and stress really very well. And yes, he has cut back his activities, because, I mean, his first duty, really, in a situation like that, is to his wife and children, because he's only the Prince of Wales, he's not the king. And I thought he handled the situation brilliantly, and he has shown himself to be very statesmanlike in his demeanor and in his attitude and in his choices. So I would say statesman of the younger royals has got to go to William. The most supportive royal of the year, oh, without a doubt, Sophie Edinburgh. I mean, she's just been wonderful. No fuss, gets on with it, does a really fabulous job, doesn't ask for the praise that she deserves and doesn't always get. I think Sophie Edinburgh, without a doubt. Hardest working royal of the year? Well, it's always a no-brainer. It's always the Princess Royal. Princess Anne will, I mean, she is amazing when you stop to think that she's got the energy of 10 wild stallions and the commitment of a true dedicatee. So, yet again, she's clocked up far more engagements than the rest of them. And she does what she does brilliantly. And she is, without a doubt, the model of industriousness, I would have said. Most Improved Royal, Princess Beatrice. She has upped her game, I suspect to a large extent, under the ministrations of her very chic, stylish, and really superbly elegant, aside from very good-looking husband, Edoma Pelimozzi. His father lived in the same village or near the same village as my husband in the south of France. And the Pelimozzis have an absolutely beautiful palace in Italy. And he is super elegant, and she has become super elegant, and she does certain engagements and she does them brilliantly. It has to be said, her sister likewise. I know not everybody likes the York girls, but I don't see why we should tar the children with the brush that maybe the parents deserved. Wife of the Year, I think that's a no-brainer. It's got to be Camilla. I mean, I know some of the stuff that's gone on behind the scenes, and she has just been exemplary. She is like a guard dog in the best way, and everybody knows I love dogs, so that's not an insult, that's a compliment. And she has been guarding the king, the welfare of the king. She is just amazing, and she has shown herself to be such a good wife. I know a lot of people think, oh, well, Camilla's to blame for the breakup of the marriage. She wasn't to blame for the breakup of the marriage. The marriage had broken up before she re-entered the picture. And I can't emphasize that enough. And anything to the contrary is untrue and unfair on both her and the king. She has been an excellent wife to the king. I have to say, she has equilibrium and patience that I certainly wouldn't have. I mean, many of those royal men are pretty tetchy, let me tell you. I would be more like Diana, I'm sorry, if I were in her shoes, than like her. So I really take my hat off to her. And I think she has shown that and remember, she is at an age that most people have retired. She's batting 80. And she didn't work when she was younger. She never had a job. She never had a career. She never had any interest in it. She was a typical upper-class woman, married, home, hearth, children, social life. The life of my sisters. The life I was supposed to have led, and mercifully, circumstances prevented it. But it's very pleasant and agreeable in many ways, but you do pay the price. And so she has, at an age where everybody else is retired, she has had to step up, not only to the plate, but work far harder than she ever anticipated she ever would. And I understand she has embraced it and discovered she really enjoys it. And her health is not the greatest. And as I said, everybody knows she's not the youngest either. So, but she has not only fulfilled the public role brilliantly, but the private role. And all this nonsense about Camilla and Catherine being at daggers drawn and all the briefing that's done against Camilla, I have to tell you, a lot of it, you can bank on it, emanates from California, because Camilla is perceived in certain quarters as being an obstacle to riding roughshod over Charles. They wouldn't be able to ride roughshod over Charles, whoever they might be, because he's actually tougher and stronger and more stubborn than people realize. But that's not the perception, including amongst people who should know better. Not mentioning any names whatsoever. What's that, Aurora and Mickey? What? Harry's on the phone? Stop chatting nonsense. Harry isn't on the phone. Most dignified woman of the year has to go to Queen Letizia of Spain. Her sister's ex-husband to pillory the sister as well as Letizia for taking up for the sister, wrote and fed information of the most unsavory kind about a supposed relationship that they had had. And she has not missed a beat. She has actually done exactly what we were brought up to do. Rise above it. Don't acknowledge it. Don't act as if it exists. Just ignore it. And I tell you, that requires a lot more discipline than you would realize. And she has been exemplary the way she has just not even indicated with the slightest hint that there was anything untoward going on when there has been. And so the most dignified man of the year has got to be her husband, King Felipe of Spain, who again has just blanked the whole thing, acted as if it wasn't happening, which is the best way of coping with situations like that. Again, difficult to do, especially when your wife and her virtue are being questioned, because most men would want to actually, shall we say, not only make a show, but deliver some correction. And he's done none of it, I think. So Felipe and Letizia of Spain. The most deservedly reviled royal of the year has got to be Harry. Sorry. I think it's unforgivable that his father and his sister-in-law have been battling cancer, and Harry has remained absolutely silent about the untrue accusations that emanated from obviously his wife, if not from him as well, and were delivered via amid scabies in Endgame last year in Holland. And the whole year has gone by with Harry and Meghan planting all sorts of stories about themselves, and he pretending that he is re-embracing his humanitarian stances. And not only has he completely ignored his duty to clear up the lies that Amit scabies have told against his sick father and his sick sister-in-law. The sister-in-law whom he used to say was the sister he never had, and how much he loved her. And he stands by and allows both her reputation and his father's reputation to be traduced internationally and does nothing about it. Also, to show that he is so humanitarian that he ignores his duty the way the Spains have ignored untoward comments about the Queen of Spain. He has said and done absolutely nothing about the African parks atrocities. Absolutely nothing. The one thing he did was shift from being the head of the organization to on the board. That he did to protect himself, but nothing else. He's done nothing. He's made no announcements. He's not used his public profile to in any way, shape or form lighten the load of the unfortunate natives who have been so abused. It is truly beyond belief. And because this is YouTube, I can't say a lot of what has gone on. But he has shown that he is totally beneath contempt. And he is deservedly the most reviled royal of the era. And I'm delighted to see that he was number 2 on the most hated public figure in the United States of America. Meghan, of course, being number 1. So even on what she regards as her home turf, their past is catching up with them. The most undeservedly reviled royal of the year has got to be Prince Andrew. Why should Prince Andrew be pilloried for any failures that were done by MI5 and MI6? Now, I'm not getting into the Christiane thing in any great depth. He totally denies that he is a spy, and I actually believe him. He's no more a spy than any prominent businessman in this country who would go to China and come back and comment on what's going on there. I think that it is a disgrace that Prince Andrew is being reviled the way he is being. I think the mainstream media are disgusting. I think they should show some decency and some sense of fair play and justice, because if they're not blaming 2 former prime ministers or MI5 and MI6 for knowledge of this man's supposed wrongdoing, which even the judges in the case had to admit there's really little or no evidence of. In fact, by saying the way they said it, they were basically saying there is no evidence against Christiane. And I just think the whole thing stinks to high heaven. And I don't care that Prince Andrew is unlikable. Even unlikable people have rights, and those rights need to be respected. That's the difference between being moral and amoral. Well, most despised royal is, without a doubt, Meghan Markle. Easy. I mean, I don't even think we need to belabor the point as to why she's so reviled and despised, because she is despised and reviled, and justifiably so. But of course, to just touch upon one or two of her accomplishments. Vice President Francia Marquez ended up absolutely loathing her and regretted having asked her. And Meghan's demands, Meghan's rudeness, Meghan's laziness, according to a member of the Colombian delegation, were remarkable. And that's just one instance. Remember, the president of Nigeria's wife got up and made a very pointed statement about really Meghan's conduct without mentioning Meghan's name. But she is reviled and despised, including in Hollywood. I mean, some of the things I have heard that people have said, top brass in Hollywood, I cannot tell you. I can't repeat them, sadly, because you're not allowed to repeat certain things legally. But if ever anyone deserved the award she got for being most disliked public figure of the year in the United States, it's Meghan Markle. Most dubious accuser of the year has got to be Amanda Abbington. Now, to those of you who don't know, we have a very, very popular television show here called Strictly Dancing. She was on it with Giovanni Pernice, who is one of the BBC's top dancers. She made many admissions of her hysteria, her difficult personality, how wonderful he was. They evidently had a fairly raucous relationship, which is fine. And then I suspect when she realized she might not win, she bowed out of the show and waited a while and then accused him of untoward conduct. And the BBC dragged out for some considerable length of time the inquiry, and they found one or two points in her favor, but most against her. And my own impression of her is that she is poisonous. She is an attention-seeking cow, in my opinion. And I deplore women like that. And I think any woman who takes up for a woman who lets down womanhood and uses her femininity to the detriment of anybody, whether it's other women or men, should be deplored. I think she is horrendous and ghastly. Most dignified accused has got to be Giovanni Pernice. He said nothing while she was hogging, very Megganian-like, the newspaper and the television stations, hogging with her supposed victimhood, which to anybody discerning was clearly no victimhood at all. He remained silent, and he was traduced by her, and he, I think, was so dignified. I take my hat off to Giovanni Pernice. Most welcome downfall, well, without a doubt, that's Phillip Schofield. Again, he is, to those of you who don't know, he was a poisonous poisonous host on Good Morning Britain or whatever it's called. It's a morning show. And he ambushed me. It's all there if you want to look at it on YouTube. He ambushed me over my Harry and Meghan book, and I called him to order. And he was a closet queen, married, children, nasty about everybody, a vicious little creep. And then he was given the opportunity to do a show by one of the TV channels which bombed so great. Best Dressed Royal is, well, there are really several very well-dressed royals. There is Queen Mathilde of the Belgians. There is Queen Mary of Denmark. There is Queen Letizia of Spain. But I have to say, using my knowledge as a Dean's List student at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, as well as my 5 decades of experience, I have to say Catherine is the Princess of Wales, obviously, is who I'm speaking about, is streets ahead the absolutely best dressed royal woman on earth. Queen Maxima, sometime of the Netherlands, is very colourful. And the other women are really, really brilliantly dressed. But Catherine, streets ahead of everybody. She never gets it wrong. The most unexpected political action of the year has got to be Bashar al-Assad, the former Syrian president, informing Israel where the weapons were stored to prevent them falling into the hands of the theocratic extremists in Syria with the collapse of the Assad regime. Now, I'm not going to go into the collapse of the Assad regime here and now. If you want me to, I can go into it elsewhere. But it has been very well orchestrated, and at the moment it would appear that Giuliani, who has emerged as the leader of the group that has seized power, seems to be saying that, because there was an incident a few days ago where in Hama, the Christmas tree, beautiful big Christmas tree, was burnt by some Islamist extremists, and they ordered that the Christmas tree be restored, which it was. And he says that Syria, and he's right, Syria is not the same as Afghanistan. Syria is one of the oldest Christian nations on earth. Syria has one of the oldest Christian communities on earth. And it will be interesting to see he is able to maintain the rights and freedoms of all Syrians, irrespective of their religion or lack of religion, if Syria becomes a theocratic state. In theory, it could, because Britain actually has a state religion. So Britain, in a way, is a theocracy, because we have an official religion, which is the Church of England. but we are a fully fledged, paid up democracy where everybody's supposed to have rights. We'll get to that in a moment. But will he be able to pull it off? Because when you are a moderate surrounded by extremists, you sometimes have a little choice if you're going to survive, and if your regime is going to survive. You can actually be swept along whether you wish to be or not. But what Assad did was to prevent the weapons falling into the hands of the Muslim fundamentalists. He tipped off the Israelis where the weapons are stored so they could eradicate them. Now that tells me, if no one else, that Assad is primarily a secularist and would sooner give his sworn secular enemy a leg up rather than allow theocratic fundamentalists to prevail. The most scurrilous celebrity propagandist is clearly Amid Scabies, without a doubt. And I think I'm going to have to speed up, otherwise I'll never get through, and you will be here forever. The most ridiculous celebrity couple, no, don't guess. Do you think who it is? Harry and Meghan. The lowest display of disloyalty has got to be Harry failing to call out the lies told by scabies that Charles and Catherine are racist. Without a doubt. His disloyalty is so pronounced. It's unbelievable. The most outrageous display of filial infidelity has got to be Meghan failing to acknowledge her father's 80th birthday. It came and went without so much as a by your leave. However, after I did a GoFundMe to assist Thomas Markle, as well as to note that his milestone birthday, and to give people an opportunity to show the regard they had for him. And they did it in their thousands, to the extent of, I think, nearly £60,000, which was tremendously wonderful of the public. So they showed Thomas Markle the regard they had for him. She, nothing, absolutely nothing. However, within a few weeks of my shutting down and announcing that I had shut down the GoFundMe, and GoFundMe confirming to me that they had followed my instructions and shut it down. And it wasn't a request, it was a command. There are no two ways about it. I wasn't asking them, I was ordering them, and they fulfilled my requirement. They then not only used my name, my identifying details, to create a false Thomas Markle GoFundMe account. But within a very narrow period of time, even though I didn't know that the account existed, Martin Robinson, chief reporter at the Mail, knew about it. Now, what does that tell you? I know what it tells me. there is no doubt that they were trying to destroy my reputation and also punish me for having done what they should have done. And I'm not going to particularize who they are. You can use your imagination and think who I think is ultimately responsible for the attempt to destroy my reputation and to sully the gift I and people in their thousands gave to Thomas Markle. So, Meghan, she is a thankless, awful daughter, and it is the most disgraceful display of filial infidelity that I have ever seen. Most shameless display of flaunting flesh inappropriately. Well, again, Meg's the baby's got to win that one. Look at how she exhibited her really rather unattractive wares, because Meghan doesn't have good skin. When you have bad skin and you have moles all over your body, you do not flaunt your flesh as if it were beautiful flesh. Also, Meghan is a woman in her 40s. She's now too old to be flaunting flesh. Of course, the president of Nigeria's wife made the point of commenting on how unsavory it is for any woman to flaunt her flesh, because in Nigeria and in many of the African cultures, and in fact in many cultures all over the world, it is inappropriate to flaunt flesh. Now, if Meghan had done it at a ball in a very contained environment, you would have said, well, she can get away with it, although rarely with such awful skin, she shouldn't be displaying it. But you could have said, well, she's delusional, but it's okay. It's not okay to be semi-nude at a school. It's not okay. And it's not okay to be hugging people so that your projectiles, the two projectiles, the yolks of the egg that would otherwise be slathered almost flat on the pavement, project into people's bodies. No. Very tacky. The most undignified public figure, again, without a doubt, it's got to be Meghan Markle. Her lack of dignity is so repellent. The most admirable down-to-earth public figure, now we come to something really positive, is Coleen Rooney. Because Coleen Rooney has shown, not only during the trial, but subsequent to the trial, she has shown how commendably somebody who is sane, sound, sensible, decent, and tasteful is. She has shown that she is admirably down to earth in her demeanour. And I mean, I don't look at I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. Sorry, I haven't even looked at myself in it. I've seen snippets, but that's it. But I gather she did very well in I'm a Celebrity, and I am delighted that she did. Now, the most openly nasty publicity seeker is her nemesis, Rebecca Vardy. Rebecca Vardy is right down there with Meghan Markle as a deplorable, despicable creature that really nobody in their right mind, in my opinion, would do anything but hopefully ignore, except they make it impossible for you to ignore them. Rebecca Vardy is so disgusting. I mean, can you imagine getting a column while Coleen Rooney is in I'm a Celebrity in the Jungle to take pot shots at her? And she was so nasty about it. I mean, this is a woman who doesn't understand that when you show people you're nasty, they're going to get the message. Nasty is nasty. And nasty, Rebecca Vardy should understand, is not the same thing as being impassioned or defending yourself. Nasty is being the perpetrator. She is awful. I can only think she does certain things very well because her poor husband, but he obviously is getting his payoff. The public figures who have sunk lowest in the public esteem are, again, Harry and Meghan. They keep on plumbing new depths. We've had in the United States of America in the last few months, the Hollywood Reporter, one thing after the other. So I don't even need to particularize. They are now so unpopular, even in the American press. It will be interesting to see how much further they can dig, because they're going to reach mid-earth at some point. The most respected public figure, I think, has got to be Catherine, the Princess of Wales, because I think she has handled being ill very well. She ignored, to a large extent, totally outrageous comments that were made about her, that she wasn't ill, that she was dead, that she was an AI, that she had a double, that, I mean, I won't even go into some of them because they can't be repeated. And then the least respected public figure, of course, is her sister-in-law, Meghan. And we're coming up for the home stretch now, you'll be pleased to hear. So the commendations to publications for turning away from hagiography to more balanced reportage, Hollywood Reporter and The Cut. The Hollywood Reporter and The Cut both were very, very on the Meghan team. And now they have actually gone from being supplicants at the altar of the goddess Meghan. Oh, please, give me the opportunity to worship at your feet, Duchess, to really exposing her for what she is. Politician of the Year, which is different from Man of the Year, has got to be Donald Trump. I mean, it's amazing what he has just plowed ahead, and he had his finger on the pulse of the people, while the mainstream media, whether it was the print medium or the televisual medium, they had just kept on trying to machine gun him into oblivion. But he ignored it, and what he did was, some of what he did was really clever. He understood that the mainstream media are not the force that they used to be, that many people, in fact, most sensible people, don't even bother to read the newspapers in any depth or look at television for the news in any real depth. They go to the internet to get the facts. He understood that. He went on Joe Rogan. He spoke for hours on Joe Rogan. He allowed Joe Rogan to ask him any question he wanted. And he struck a note with the people who vote the people who actually think, instead of doing what the failed politician of the year, because there is this category, Kamala Harris, what she did. Not only did she refuse to ever give a proper interview, and refuse to answer any questions, and refuse to actually come up with any policy, but she actually had the unmitigated gall to publish an autobiography where the maid was presented as her grandmother. So the dark-skinned maid was presented as her fair-skinned grandmother Beryl, which, of course, I discovered when I interviewed Dorothy Ottey, a friend of mine, a black Jamaican friend of mine, who was brought up beside Kamala Harris's grandmother, Beryl. So the failed politician of the year is without a doubt Kamala Harris, because what possessed her and her advisors to think that the American people are so gullible that all you have to do is slam them with rhetoric and they are going to oblige, and they didn't. Very bad politics. If you can't represent yourself fairly and effectively, how can you represent hundreds of millions of people? Most threatening politician, sadly, is Keir Starmer. His threats to justice, to civil liberties, and the British way of life, as he has embarked upon his government, and it's frightening. But I will caution everybody against trying to get rid of Keir Starmer, unless he is replaced with Wes Streeting. It would be disastrous, because we do not want Starmer Kerensky to be replaced by Angela Rayner Vladimir Ilyanov, known as Lenin. So I make that point for what it's worth. The most economically disastrous politician is Rachel Reeves. I mean, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She has created a series of crises in this country that have just started, economic crises, and are going to get far worse. She used to claim to be an economist. She's not an economist. She's not even a competent housekeeper. She is, let's wait and see what happens, but she is catapulting this country into penury. The most craven politician has got to be Justin Trudeau. How he is clinging on to power, and the policies that he has embarked upon are truly frightening to anybody who has genuine respect for civil liberties. Now, the most hopeful politician of the year is Nigel Farage. Let's see what happens, because, of course, this government is already trying to prevent Elon Musk from donating sufficient funds to the Reform Party to get it off the ground. I think, as things stand, the Conservatives are to this century what the Liberal Party was to the last century at the same time. 100 years ago, the Liberal Party had been a formerly great party, headed up by Gladstone, massively successful in the 19th century. It became irrelevant in the 1920s, and Labour took over, and Labour became relevant. And the Labour Party is still relevant, but the Conservative Party has now shown itself through its ineptitude, its infighting, and its unprofessionalism to not be a party worth electing. So I think that what is happening right now is analogous with what happened 100 years ago, except the Conservatives are in the position the Liberal Party was 100 years ago, and Reform is in the position that Labour was 100 years ago. And I think if Nigel Farage and his people get their act together, they will be an extremely successful government if they are true to their ideals. Because we need a Conservative Party in this country, a party that will conserve. We do not have a Conservative Party in this country, a party that will conserve. We have a party that calls itself the Conservative Party, that is Labour light. It is left of centre. We need a party that is right of centre. At the moment, we have two left of centre parties. The main two parties, the Conservatives and the Labour Party, are both left of centre. The Labour Party being more left of centre than the Conservatives. People want a choice, and if Nigel Farage will give them a choice, they will take it. But I have no doubt that he is very aware of the fact that he better deliver the goods, because politicians are supposed to deliver the goods. It's not a game. They're not trying to get themselves elected so that they can enjoy power. They are being given power by the people so that they will rule in the people's name and in the people's interest. That's what we need. And Nigel Farage will hopefully be the man. So he's the most hopeful politician, in my view, at the moment. You know, they say that a week is a long time in politics, and there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. But at the moment, it's Nigel Farage. And we will end with Vulgarian of the Year, which is sadly Meghan Markle. Sorry. She has earned it. She deserves it. We need to give it to her. She is Vulgarian of the Year. Can you imagine being so stupid, so short-sighted, so egotistical, so vain, so greedy, that you would swap being a senior member of the British royal family to hustle on a red carpet in Hollywood? I mean, the woman is beyond redemption. It's a pity that she breathes, because if she didn't breathe, we would be able to flush her. Sadly, we have to tolerate her. We have to at least acknowledge that this very dangerous and dreadful woman exists. And it is our duty to ensure that she does not prevail, because everything that Meghan Markle represents, in my opinion, is deplorable. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed. Bye-bye.